Hey, what's up everybody? Video 44 coming at you with another video. All right. So, I don't know if I want to rant about the Lakers necessarily. I don't think there's anything new to really say. We just need to win this game tonight against the Golden State Warriors. That's really it, man. Everything else is just frustrations of a very long and disappointing season. And you know, when I say the word disappointing, it doesn't mean that we've been horrible or nothing. We're well above 500. We've had worse seasons, obviously. But, you know, when you're coming off of Western Conference Finals, you just don't want to see certain things. I think there has to be some credence, and I'm going to say this. There has to be some credence to how the regular season goes. Because at the end of the day, once you hit the playoffs, it's a different conversation. And I really do think that Darvin did a very positive job. I'd say it's a positive job is the way I want to use it. He was a plus for the team in the playoffs last year in the first two rounds. I don't think his schemes were particularly bad. I thought his rotations worked out for the most part. I would have loved to see more Rui Hachimura last year in the playoffs, stuff like that. But we overachieved. I didn't think that we were going to dominate Memphis the way we did. And, you know, we had a real size advantage over Golden State, and we took care of business. So if we were to do something like that again this year, I would definitely assess him the same way if it works out. But being in the play-in tournament, man, is something to avoid. It really is. And if your regular season is so mediocre that you find yourself in the play-in tournament year in and year out, there needs to be some credence that goes to that assessment. You talk about how you want your regular season to go and ultimately how it ends up. It can't just be, well, we had a good thing going on with the playoffs, so we don't have to assess the regular season and just, you know, Darvin saved his job, you know, that kind of thing. Because even though this regular season was a struggle, once we get to the playoffs, our team looked great and all of that. It's like those are two different things that we need to be assessing. And the problem that you run into when you have a bad regular season is that you could be in a one and done situation, and that could be scenario is a problem. When you're trying to win a championship, when you have all on the line that we do, when you got LeBron James, year 21 and all this and that, you can't have a bad regular season to put you in that could be in the play-in tournament range. You want out of that so that you can secure playoff basketball. If something goes wrong in the play-in tournament, one game, you're out of here if you're in the 9th, 10th seed. 2 games, you're out of here if you're in the 8th seed or the 7th seed. It's like, while I don't disagree with the tournament, I like that it's there because it leaves more of a room for teams in the 9th and 10th range to make the playoffs. And a lot of times the 7 and 8 teams do not find themselves being a better team than the 8 and 9 team just because of how they end the season or injuries and stuff like that. So I like it and I want it to stay as a whole. But as a Laker fan, I'm sick of being in it every damn year. Every year, fam. Since they've had this play-in tournament, has there been any season where we weren't a part of it? We're always 7, 8, 9, or 10. Always. And luckily enough, we've been able to overcome those games when we find ourselves in them to make the playoffs and then from there further advance when we do. I don't want to be in the play-in tournament anymore. And as a lot of it has to do with the Western Conference being tough. I get it. You'd rather be in the play-in tournament than the 11th or 12th spot, especially without us having a pick. That's not something that we should want, to miss. But we got too talented. We're playing too much for our 2 guys, man. Genie is paying too much for our 2 guys. And I hate to make it about salary, but for those who follow me closely enough, we're not talking necessarily about salary, but more so pieces of the pie and how much of that goes to whom and how much they can do for us. That's all it's really about. All these guys can make $1 billion. I wouldn't care. But because we can only divvy up so much to give to everybody, the 2 main guys that we're giving the most money to, the expectations are extremely high because of who they are. That's LeBron James. That's Anthony Davis. These ain't regular stars, fam. With all due respect to all the good superstar players out there, these dudes are tiers higher than y'all. Most of you. Like most of you. It's only about 7 players I'm going to name before Anthony Davis. 7, 8 players. And that teeters from year to year. But I'm talking about since we've had him for the last 7 years. How many players you really taking above Anthony Davis? If you really know what you're talking about. Maybe this year he's 9, 10, 11 or something like that, but that ain't the point. We're talking about the fullness of how we've had such a top-tier second guy. Ain't no other teams in this league right now got a top-tier second guy as good as Anthony Davis. Nobody has a number 2 as good as Anthony Davis. Who? Don't say the Clippers with James Harden, PG. I got the AD higher than him. Don't say Jaylen Brown. I got AD higher than him. You know what I'm saying? Who? Don't say Kyrie. I got AD higher than him. So it's like, who you got that you gonna name is a better number 2 than Anthony Davis in the entire league? Maybe there's somebody I'm not thinking about. Maybe you want to say Sabonis, Fox. I still got AD higher than both of them. Even though Sabonis has owned AD, Sabonis ain't owned the rest of the league like he owns AD. Like AD owns most of the rest of the league. Who you got? You want to say Jamal Murray? I don't have him above AD. No. No. We got the best number 2 basketball player in basketball. Arguably, and I'm going to say this sounds strange, arguably all time. All time. And if you want to say AD's number 1, okay, fine. Bron, still, same thing. Nothing changes. You can swap them if you want. Don't make a damn difference. They're both top 10 players in the NBA any given year. So for us to be in a play-in tournament every year, that's a failure every single time, bro. And I can argue most of the time, it's because our coaching situation is flawed. You may want to say the role players this, the role players that, but the role players good enough to be carried by AD and Bron. Every year they are. Every year they're good enough to be carried by a healthy AD Bron. And never have we had a more healthy AD Bron than this year right now. Because last year, of course, they had the foot injuries and things like that. The year before that, we've been with several injuries. Several long-term injuries, growing injuries. This is the year they've been healthy, both of them. And you trying to tell me we can't be better than a 9th seed? We're up here fighting tooth and nail with the Golden State Warriors so we don't fall to 10 this year when they're healthy? And then I look at some of the reasons why that is. You start breaking down this season and what really happened this year. Why you lost certain games, why your team wasn't good enough in certain situations, what caused these problems. And most of them were coaching problems, bro. Sis, whoever's listening to me. Most of them, when you break down what it is Coach Ham's decision-making with the rotation. Him having gut ideas rather than using the numbers and what's in front of him to tell him what the truth is. He want to go with his guy here. He want to go with his guy there. He overplayed this guy, didn't play another guy that much. That's the type of stuff that literally breaks down to why your team lost certain games. And when I assess our regular season, a lot of it had to do with injuries. Most of it had to do with the choices he made while those injuries were in place. We could have managed. I know the injuries have a lot to do with why our team wasn't as full as our vision would have been, but it ain't why we sucked, fam. We sucked because of his choices. And that's not just me talking. That's me listening to people breaking down why here and there. We used this guy wrong, used that guy wrong, didn't use this guy, put that situation, those rotations on the floor. This is when that happened. We didn't call this timeout. Every bit of it boils down to him. And him not managing, not having his role players healthy all season long. Now, one thing that I haven't heard enough people talk about is Rui Hachimura was not healthy to start the season. That's one thing that I'm going to give Darvin Ham that I ain't heard most people say. A lot of people wondering, why haven't Rui played more? If they would have started him from the beginning, we couldn't have. He was hurt. You can pretty much say for the first month and a half, Rui Hachimura was in and out of the lineup with injuries. Facial fractures, nose fractures, stuff like that. So that needs to be said. You can give him a pass for how that kind of played out, because Rui wasn't healthy for a good portion of the first half of this. But other than that, man, it really do come down to him playing Taurean Prince and Cam Reddish over Max Christie and Rui Hachimura. Most of the time, it really came down to that, man. It really did. And so for me, it's like, yo, I'm poised for him to have a good playoffs if we happen to make the playoffs. If we happen to put ourselves in a position to have a playoff situation, man, he may have a good playoffs again. He may. But how you go through the regular season does matter. We are not going to brush away the regular season and the hiccups and the bad decisions and the bad gut decisions specifically. I'm rolling with my gut. Bad gut decisions that ultimately cost us an opportunity at a flat-out playoff spot. When you know that there's only 1 or 2 games separating 6th seed from the 9th seed, and we're in that 9th seed. Those are losses we shouldn't have had, man. And if we would have got those wins, where would we be? Where would the competition be? Where would the Clippers be if we would have gotten the wins we were supposed to get? Where would the Dallas be if we would have gotten the wins we were supposed to get? Where would Phoenix be? All these teams that are ahead of us, they go down if we live up to the expectations of what we should have. Not based on the injuries and what was missing, but what it was that we did not use properly when those injuries were taking place. Because the injuries ain't why you lost. You had enough. Because AD and Bron was healthy the whole time. Austin Reeves, I don't think he missed a game all season. For better or for worse. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it's like, yo, man, a couple of them losses probably had to do with just not having enough personnel, but the majority of the losses that we took on was because we didn't use the personnel we did have to the best of our ability. And that matters. And it's really going to matter if we lose in the play-in tournament. And we don't make the damn playoffs because of some stupid decisions that we made back in November with the rotations. And that's what it comes down to. Because we couldn't figure out a single scheme that worked against the Sacramento Kings guards. And it comes down to that. I'm telling you, man. What a waste. What a waste of a season, man. And that's exactly what I'm here to tell you guys. I'm concerned that this was a waste of a season, and unfortunately, this is one of those rare circumstances where you couldn't afford to waste a season. Because LeBron James' year 21. You could not afford to waste this season. This was a season where it's blasphemous to waste this season. So that's what I'm saying to all of you guys, man. I'm frustrated because I really genuinely am worried that the team ain't going to make the playoffs, man. We got all this stuff going on for our team as it pertains to these stars, but we can't seem to win the games necessary to put them in a position to at least secure a playoff spot, fam. I wonder how many teams would have failed with Bron and AD as much as we have, yo. How many franchises would have done such a poor job of making sure they had the proper coaching and the proper role players around these guys over the last 7 years? I don't think too many teams would have did as bad as we did. I really don't. Not too many. Not us, not real teams. Especially when you consider we got them LA market. Some of these failures have been just unacceptable, man. And so for me, that's where my head is. I'm frustrated with this season because I know it's a couple losses that's costing us. And we could have had 7, 8 more wins if we would have made smart, reasonable decisions with our limited roster. Reasonable. We could have been in the 3rd seed, the 4th seed, if we would have made decent decisions with this roster. If we would have did things that absolutely were conventional to most of us, instead of the unconventional things that Darvin chose, man. And so that's what I'm here to tell everybody, man. I'm frustrated as a Laker fan. I'm going to watch this Golden State game, man. And I don't have high expectations for us beating this particular roster. I don't. I think they're a much improved team, and I thought they were pretty good to begin with. I think Golden State's much better than their record. I've thought that all season long because they have reliable role players like Podziemski, Jackson Davis, Wiggins, Kuminga. These dudes are better. Just like I say, our number 2 is better than most of the league. Their number 6, 7, and 8, and 9 is better than most 6, 7, 8, and 9s. And that's why the Golden State Warriors are so much more dangerous than people think. So much more dangerous. Because you'll mess around and lose because Wiggins went for 25. You'll mess around and lose because Trace Jackson Davis had a double-double with 2 blocks. You'll mess around and lose because Podziemski decided to go off for 25 points. Like, these are the type of things that I know better than to welcome the Golden State Warriors into my situation. And we're going to see them tonight. And they've been playing better. They're starting to click at the right time. So if you think I'm going to bet on them to not make the play-in tournament or make it out of the play-in tournament right now, I'm not. Not when Clay's starting to get his act together. Not when Steph Curry's still down there in his prime healthy. No, I'm not that type of stupid. And this is why we need to avoid them. This is why beating them today may save us tomorrow. And I'm telling you, if you lose to them today, what makes you think you're going to beat them when it really matters? That's the question I have for Darvin and the Lakers. If you can't beat them today in your house, what makes you think if you fall to the 10th seed, you're going to go up to San Francisco and beat them there? They already took you to double overtime and won 2 games against you. The only game you won was a game they could have won. So I could argue they Sacramento-ing you if you don't win today. No, nobody want to talk about that, though. Yeah, we're favored to beat Santa. We didn't beat them out of the playoffs last year. We knocked them out of the play-in tournament 3 years ago. So conventional wisdom tells you we should be able to beat them again. But I'm telling you, all that tells me is they got bulletin board material to be more motivated to beat us than ever before. That's all that tells me. That don't tell me we got their number. That tells me they've added reinforcements. That's what it tells. It tells me they drafted really well last year. And Podziemski, Trace Jackson Davis, and Kuminga weren't in them roles that they're in right now. That's what it tells me. You didn't beat that team. You got to beat this team. So that's what I'm telling y'all, man. I'm poised to be very unhappy and disappointed with the end of this season because I've been very disappointed and happy with the entirety of this season. And I hope this team proves me wrong. BDO 44, I thank y'all for watching. I'm out.